Everybody, it's your old friends of Monday Madness, and welcome to the latest episode of the That Was Liquid Football podcast.
Liquid shit football, more like.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. You took the words right out of my mouth. So yeah, welcome along, guys. It's been another emotional time in football. I feel like every time we do these podcasts, it's like we just jumped into a different alternate universe of the same season. Like I genuinely do believe like one in a week we're gonna do this and go. So West Brom are top again, undefeated. Guys, your thoughts on Slaven Bilic's Barmy Army? It's like no, it's that is actually impossible. But yeah, it does kind of feel weird that way because while we've spoken to you, Liverpool haven't scored a goal. I'm not counting the FA Cup match because that was a travesty. Man United are top of the league, and somehow West Ham are 7th. So I don't know which timeline we're in, but it's fairly close to the darkest timeline. Am I right in saying?
Yeah, this is the maddest one. I have a feeling like this is a timeline written by like Neil Gaiman or something like that. And then, like, it's absolutely fucking mental. Like, it's just so weird.
I'm not even shocked by things anymore. It's like Liverpool beaten at home by Burnley. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. Whereas if you'd said that to me like at the beginning of the season, I'd be like, fuck off, get out of that alternative like universe in your brain there. You're shocked.
I love the generalization. I don't know you're shocked by things.
There's a very Philomena Kunk line. People used to be surprised by things, but now the things don't surprise people anymore. Now it's thugs. Oh no.
It's so mad. Like, and everybody's just going fucking mental. Like, everybody's losing their cool. Hubris is still my season theme of hubris is still strong, still alive, still fucking rocking.
Exactly, and long may it continue with that regard. We'll start the part off by going down the Premier League and letting you know at this point in the podcast where the league stands, because I guarantee the next time you listen to us, it'll be completely different. It will be just like change places, Mad Hatter style. So we'll start down the bottom. The bottom three at the moment still stands as Sheffield United, West Brom, and Fulham. Sheffield United are 5 points so far this season, just about 12 points from survival. So, you know, whenever you're ready, lads, get on with it. Brommy and Fulham are a little bit closer in that regard, 11 and 12 respectively. Fulham have an extra game because of the coronavirus. But again, they've kind of gone through like a rough patch of like Spurs, Chelsea, and Man United games all in one go. So it's like it's kind of good to get those games out of the way, in fairness to them. So they might have a decent run in.
Actually, they were quite unlucky to lose to Manchester United.
I think so too. To be fair, they were very unlucky against Chelsea. They were just generally unlucky through that entire spot of the season, like.
Yeah, no, I just because they lost them. I mean, like, in all fairness, like when you say, "Oh, they had a bad run with Spurs and Manchester United and Chelsea," I was like, when you look at those results, like they drew 1-1 with Spurs, only lost 1-0 to Chelsea, and lost 2-1 to Manchester United. So, like, I don't know, like that's like they weren't tonked. You know, like people were expecting them to get absolutely fucking bummed, but no, like they only lost 2 of those matches by 1 goal. Like,
exactly. And again, there is a lot to like about the team. So I do. It depends on the teams above them, in fairness, but I reckon like if someone does trip up, Newcastle, they'll be there to capitalize on it. You know. Oh, speaking of which, hello.
I'm still sticking with my prediction of Burnley fucking it because there's no goals. There's just no goals there. I mean,
but imagine the historic importance of beating Liverpool at home and getting relegated. Like,
like when you take in, because we said this in the last podcast that because I pointed them out, I was like, "There's no goals there. There's just no goals." Their goal against, admittedly, winning goal against Liverpool, that was their 10th. That they've scored
goal season. Yeah.
We're 18 games in, they've scored 10 fucking goals.
Yang is joint third for top scorer in the Burnley team.
Yeah, that's good.
So like, it's just mental.
Yeah, as I said, we have the kind of the I suppose threatened with relegation are Brighton on 17. Burnley and Newcastle both on 19 points. Newcastle haven't won a game in like 6 now, I think it is. It's either draws or losses for them. So you can't blame all of that
Mostly
on COVID.
losses. I think they've lost in the league. They've lost their 4 of the last 5.
Yeah. And we will talk about Newcastle later on in the show.
Yes.
I suppose the teams that are safe are, again, we mentioned them previously. They're still together. Wolves, Palace, and Leeds United. Villa then are currently in the bottom half of the table for the first time in a while. 3 games in hand, though, so we'll see. We'll leave that there for the moment. Arsenal have infiltrated the top 10 for the first time this season since whatever the start of it when you trashed Fulham. Southampton and Chelsea are joint 8th. West Ham and Everton are both 6th, which is upsetting on several levels, to be honest. Spurs are 5th on 33, a point behind Liverpool, who's currently sit 4th.
What's funnily enough about Everton and West Ham is there's only 2 goals in the difference. Everton are only ahead because they've scored 1 more goal.
Yeah,
so it's just mental.
That's bizarre, isn't it? It just goes to show you can take the Pickford out of Sunderland, but you can't take the Sunderland out of Pickford.
But also, Everton have 2 goals and 2 games in hand over them, so
that is true as well. Yeah, so we still might be able to Pickford it up. Currently,
steamroller into West Ham's knees. And Jordan!
Yeah, who's West Ham's back like
thermometers again?
So yeah, Issa Diop, I'd watch out if I were you, man. I'm just saying. So the top 3 at the moment sits Man United top on 40, Man City on 38 with a game in hand, and Leicester on 38 as well. So Neil, I think we'll start off, as it were, kind of set pieces here and talk about this supposed title race. Whenever you're ready, obviously, you know who's going to win from that, right, Neil? Help.
Well, no, it's fucking wide open. I've no idea who the fuck is going to win anything, ever.
Well, thanks, Neil.
Yeah, it's just sorry. It's what's mental about the whole thing. I mean, Man U are top of 40. I mean, 8th. Chelsea are 8th, and they're 11 points off. So that's not huge. That's not insurmountable. But that's just so fucking mental. I don't see it. The only thing I can see is the world will end if Manchester United win it.
Yeah, I think we can hear that.
This cannot happen. Ever.
No.
So here's me silently cheering on City and Leicester.
It's a weird dichotomy of it because I don't like Man City, but at the same time I'm thinking I don't like Man City, but I really hate the idea of Man United fans for the next year if they do win it, because they will literally never shut the fuck up about this.
Sure, they're bad enough every time they win a game. Do you imagine if they get the fucking league?
Oh, have you ever seen them when Liverpool lose a game? Holy shit! They literally just celebrated Ole's won the Champions League again. All right, lads. Well done.
Doing bits is also really upsetting me.
Yes,
it doesn't feel right.
It's very upsetting.
Doesn't feel right at all.
He's still nowhere near a player worth what they paid for the poor fucker. But
yeah, it's he's after scored a worldly goal against Fulham, but that's exactly it. It's against Fulham. He needs, if he wants to live up to the reputation that his price tag gave him, he needs to be doing those worldies against a Man City, against actually good defenders.
Yeah.
He stopped his dalliance with the fucking La Liga now that both Real and Barcelona are in the fucking toilet. So he stopped going, oh, it's my dream to play for Real or Barca or whoever the fuck will pay me more money, because he realizes that those clubs have no money.
Yeah.
So they can't pay him. So he's at the only club that can afford to pay him his inflated ego. So he's like, when I'm here, I might as well do a football.
And doing a football, he is. And power to him.
Yeah, well, the thing about Pogba is, we never claimed he was a crap player. We just claimed he was a massively overrated egomaniac. Yeah. Never said he was bad.
He was bad in the terms of he was it seemed like he was not putting in the effort to be. or to be at his normal standard. It is almost like he was like in a huff. And I was like, well, you want me to pass that ball? I'm not going to pass that ball. I'm just going to do my own thing. And it literally felt like watching him, and I don't watch a whole lot of Man United matches because it annoys me, because they usually play really shit and then end up winning. I was like, why can't we do that?
No, I'm never getting over the game they beat us 2-1 with one shot on target.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that's literally the most Man U fucking thing to do. And also, this Man U team isn't even that good. Like, I'm like, if it was a team comprised, like the team that had like a young Ronaldo and Rooney and were ripping up trees, I'd be like, all right, I'm fine. Yeah. You could kind of cope losing to those pricks.
Ross McTominay is being hailed as the next fucking Jesus.
Like the only person on that team that is actually properly really, really fucking good is Fernandes. And holy shit, he is doing a full-on Luis Suarez to that fucking team.
Yeah.
Where would it be without Fernandes would be a stat I would like. Like how many of his penalties or how many of his set pieces have actually scrambled a 3-pointer for them?
I think someone ran the numbers on this. He is accounting for more than half of their goals and assists wise. It is literally like a Luis Suarez effect for Liverpool. Like,
he really is, yeah.
More.
He's fucking hasn't he? He's already set a record for like player of the month. He's gotten it like 4 months in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like.
Yeah, but and that's the thing. Like
for us, Gabriel, not Martinelli, the defender, one of the 3 months.
Yeah.
But it's really weird because the comparisons to the Suarez and Sturridge season for United are very obvious, and I think I can't remember who said it. I think it was Ken Hardy who said it on his pod on the Second Captains this week, where it is a case of like it seemed like individual class is kind of taken over this season, and there's always the case where like some kind of team like takes over for like whoever wins the league. That's like the kind of the deciding factor. So yeah, like individual brilliance is helping in a sense where like teams that have like this regimented like programs like pressing or the Guardiola ball or whatever it is, they're struggling because they haven't been a chance to implement it properly, and now these like teams are working half mass, and for some it's working, for some it's not. Whereas with United we just go, oh, Bruno's there, he'll do it, or Rashford's there, he'll do it, or Pogba's there, he'll do it. It's kind of weird how it's kind of worked the opposite way, because when you think about like Spurs are kind of the same way with Kane and Son, and Leicester are there with like Maddison, Vardy. But at least with Leicester, there's like a good balance to the team. It makes sense. And with United, it's kind of like there is somewhat of a balance there, but it's flawed as well. You know, it can be gotten to once just teams like just hit them in the first 15 minutes. And I'm looking at them going like, why aren't you hitting them in the first 15 minutes? Like it's. Did you not see the Istanbul game? Like, fucking just go for them. Like, they've got a problem setting themselves up. Like, they have to keep fighting from behind, you know? So I think that, I think we said it before, but like, United are up there. I don't know if I can call them title challengers yet. I want to see what they're like when the Europa League kicks in and see how they do.
Yeah.
That's me the deciding factor there. Yeah.
Yeah, because that squad's not got a whole lot of depth. Although, to be perfectly honest with you, like the only squad up there that's got any kind of depth is City's. You know, I mean, Manchester United, they've not got really a good bench. Even though like it's probably worth close to 150 fucking million. Leicester have nobody really to back up. Like they've very few fucking the backups they have in defense are like Morgan, who creaks when he runs. You know, and fucking nobody else really. Liverpool have a bench stocked entirely of people that Klopp does not rate, even though they spent gargantuan amount of cash on them. I mean, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, but if I was Minamino, I'd be looking to get the fuck out of there, because I'd be like, I will have words to say on that, because I am actually quite annoyed in that regard. He plays his best game ever in the Liverpool shirt, and then he gets benched for a month. He even scored a goal. Like, what does he need to do? What the fuck? What am I doing? Like, you know, Chelsea just have Lampard. So like,
no matter what team you put in front of Lampard, he will Lampard it up.
Absolutely. Like that team's got stunning first teamers and a great backup. Like they've a great 25-man squad, but it's Lampard. So like,
I would be worried if like Emma Hayes. I've said this before. If Emma Hayes took over the men, like Chelsea men, they're winning the league, they're winning the Champions League, they are winning every fucking trophy available if they get the right manager in with the squad that they have, and the right manager is right in their club.
mm-hmm.
You know,
But it's on the other side where no one watches.
and I'll be talking about her later on, because despite her being a fantastic manager for a team that I hate, I have to give her the plaudits of being a fantastic manager, because she just is smart and does the right thing. And like, why can't our manager do that?
Manages a team
yes.
well.
Hashtag Joe Out is rocking it.
Yes. we have thoughts incoming on that, folks. But yeah, you mentioned Man City there, and they're going to go back on them for a spell. They kind of seem to have kicked into gear because of the.
Well, they've been kicked right out of gear in the last week or so. I mean, like,
what to say?
to revert back to your the way you started this off, which is, you know, in about a day or two, everything we've said will no longer make sense, because we went into this going, oh yeah, they've kicked in a gear, they've really found their groove, and now De Bruyne is out for 6 weeks with a hamstring injury. Aguero's got the plague. So you're like, oh fuck, no.
But why would they need De Bruyne, Neil, when their biggest goal threat, John Stones, is in hot form?
Oh my God, John Stones, fucking hell! If you're relying on John Stones, you failed already. I don't care what it is. It's so bad. Even Kyle Walker's out. They don't have him.
Yeah, but that's no. Come on, let's be fair.
Kyle Walker.
Be honest. What's that?
A quick orgy and he'd be background.
Actually, funny enough, he's got a hip injury, so I think it's all them injuries that have put him out.
Oh, it's a hip injury now, is it? It's not a pelvic injury, is it? No, okay, all right, mate.
From my many thrusts.
So another team that's kind of like, again, now is missing their most important player is Leicester, because Vardy's out for a couple of months with a hernia.
Thanks for the heads up on that, because I need to take him out of my fantasy football.
Get him fucking out of there, yeah. And again, much to your point, Neil, like, it's a Vardy-less team is a very blunt team, because Iheanacho is just not the same standard.
Yeah, they can't rely on Maddison to do fucking everything for them, you know?
Yeah. And to be fair, like, I like what Leicester have kind of done, or at least like what Rodgers have done, acknowledging the fact he doesn't have a great strike force with Vardy by himself. So he's just flooded the midfield. So he's got like all of his best midfielders on at the same time. And whenever he does make a change, it's to someone like out wide. So he's actually kind of papering the cracks a good bit. Good. I couldn't tell you if that's going to cover him for the rest of the season. Maybe they could look at someone getting on loan. Who knows? Like, even for the couple of weeks.
Giroud make the switch up to Leicester for the rest of the season.
Oh, doesn't Giroud really, really love living in London and doesn't want to go? Like, that's why we had to flog him to Chelsea.
Yeah,
he wouldn't go anywhere else.
But like, he is like, what? He's over 30. Was he 32? He's not getting regular football.
He's
like,
really handsome.
He's emails about coming over and helping me with some handiwork around here.
Preferably while shirtless.
Doesn't happen not all the time.
Sorry, the instructions on this shelf says you can't be wearing any clothes while you're. I'm not a DIY person, but you know.
It's like here. They're Swedish. They're weird. Okay, just I'll watch in the corner, sweating.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
I'll be watching Pablo Mari with the red button player cam while you do work. Right, go for it.
Well, just James sits in his own corner going, "Yep, it's Saturday again."
This is my life.
Anyway, so yeah, we kind of mentioned them earlier on, but we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into Liverpool this week because we kind of have to. They've been kind of prominent, I think it's fair to say, in fucking everything royally up, because by the time since we've last spoke to you, they still haven't scored a goal. They haven't won a game. And yes, I'm not counting the Aston Villa game. That does not fucking count. We went up against a schoolboy team and still made hard work of it, which should say a lot, to be honest. But yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it, because we're a day away removed from from then losing 1-0 to Burnley. And this is after a run of drawing 0-0 with Man United, drawing with Newcastle, with Fulham, and just a run of very bad, poor performances and poor games, albeit against kind of, with the exception of Man United, against poor opposition. So it's a very weird trend we have. But I'd like to hear what your guys' thoughts on it, because we're kind of coming out of our injury kind of like situation as well. Like the only one we're kind of waiting to come back now is Jota. And naturally, we're not going to be getting any defenders back at that point. So what do you guys think of our season so far? Because I have various thoughts on it. I want to see if they marry up.
Neil, do you want to go first?
Yeah, well, to be all fairness, like I don't think it's gone that badly. Like, I mean, you're looking at 9-7-3. So for 34 points, I'm like, all right, then you haven't won in the last 5 in the league, losing 2 of them. But it's like, and you're still 4th. Like, you're only 6 points off the top. You know, all the teams ahead of you, bar I think City have 1 game in hand. So you've played the same amount. It's not as like if Man U were top and they'd like, you know, like Villa, they'd only played 16 fucking games. You know, I'd be worried. But no, it's not. Like, I think it's just playing your midfielders in defence has kind of really hobbled the rest of the team.
Yeah.
And it's blunted the attack. So that's why, like, you've not shipped many goals in those, you know, in those games. Like 1-0 to Burnley, 1-0 against Man U, 1-0 to Southampton, 0-0 Newcastle, 1-0 West Brom. Yeah. So, like, there's only like 3 or 4 goals that you've shipped in 5 games. And apparently on a really horrible run. So, like, no, like, it's not that bad a blip. It's not. I mean, like, yeah, like I've read an Opta stat there. Opta stat's been massively doom fucking tweeting for so long. Actually, in fact, it's Opta stats tweets that are the main source of regret for me for having deleted my Twitter account at the start of the year. I don't get them regularly anymore. I have to fish them out now. Yeah. But apparently, like, you've had 87 shots since you last scored a goal.
Yeah, I think it's more than that now.
Yeah. So, like, it's not that bad. Like, the team's going to come back. It's going to click in. The thing would worry me the most is just how tetchy Klopp is getting.
Yeah.
You know, I think because, like, your manager, like, that will transmit to the rest of the team. And he's getting really fucking angry. Like, his press conference today lasted 4 or 5 minutes. Yeah. And you could just tell from the moment he walked through the door, he wanted to get the fuck out of there. Like, I believe we'll get onto Lampard's press conference as well, which is why we're not spending a whole lot of time on Klopp's one, because Klopp didn't spend a whole lot of time doing it. But literally walked in, sat down, and went, "I really don't want to talk to you motherfuckers right now. I really fucking don't." And it's like, if this is a dip, if this is a blip, then in the scale of blips and dips, this is a fucking good one. You know, this isn't nothing. If you'd lost all 5 of those games, then I'd be like, yeah. I'm like, sure, fucking Man United, Liverpool, I'm like, they aren't big scoring games anyway. They've never scored loads of games. They've never. You know.
How about yourself, Berkball?
I would mirror Neil's comments there on how this has been blown out of proportion by the media. I think this is a case of the media, the mainstream media, blowing the more clicks when they say, "Oh, you know, Liverpool are in a tailspin," and then you get all the Liverpool fans, you know, like jumping on that, and it gets all that kind of vigor, I suppose, on Twitter going, and the vile more like. But like, I watched 2 of those last 5 Liverpool matches. I watched the Man United match and I watched the Burnley match. They're not bad. Coming from an Arsenal fan who went through like how many games where after 10 games we had like less than 10 shots.
Oh, yeah. Something like that.
Rough, yeah.
You guys are at least creating the chances. The only thing is that you're predictable in how you're going to create the chances, so people kind of can get into the right areas to defend it. All that's going to take is 5 matches of people kind of getting the better of your players. This isn't going to be a season-long thing because you've got the players with the talent that will get you out of those situations. Like Aubameyang has been off the boil, and people on Arsenal's Twitter were panicking that like, oh, now that he signed his contract, he's gone, and then he scores 2 goals against Newcastle, who as we will mention later on, are not a great team. Then like, oh, Elba's back, and it's this whole fanfare again, and it's complete like turn on like 180 of what it was like 2 weeks beforehand, where it's like he's cracked, he's done, like sell him off now. But like it's like like Klopp is reading Twitter, not any legitimate source of information, and he's kind of going, oh, I'm fucked, they're gonna sack me now, and we're playing shit because it's not. You're not playing shit. You've got unlucky results, and I would put it down to unlucky. Last year you had loads of VAR decisions going your way. This time it's not working for you this much. So I think as a fan you're gonna feel like after the season you had last season, it's gonna be very hard to replicate that. So you've got to lower your expectations as to what your team can do. We've been through the Invincibles. And the next few years after that was pretty tough to watch because you know what the team can do, and when they don't do it, it's like, why? And I think that's exactly it. You're just looking at what your team is capable of because they did it last season, and they're not doing it in front of you right now, and you're like, what's going on? And I think this will be things will blow over. Let's go down to the pub.
Yeah. But no, in a way, like I agree with kind of points both you guys have brought up. In that, I don't think it's not a season ender for sure. Like that's like we're only at the halfway mark, and like considering that Man City will absolutely be targeting the Champions League this year, and the two teams
just to cut in, like in a normal season, your run of form right now probably would have been a bit of a season ender. So I will grant that leeway, but you also have to massively caveat or completely discount it with the fact that this isn't a normal season.
No, it's not, and that's the thing. That will kind of work into our advantage a little bit, I believe, when we do kind of get into the final stretch, and it is just we're back to a regular routine of like we have these matches and Champions League matches, and if by some chance we actually shockingly take the FA Cup seriously this year. Then they may slide in at some point as well. What I would say about the match as well, because I've watched the last few matches I have watched, like West Brom and Newcastle, and actually most of the ones in the bottom six always seem to have the same pattern, which is I think there's just a little bit of arrogance in the team, in that the kind of like we've had this kind of like calming assurance from the likes of Van Dijk and Henderson that will always be able to play the perfect ball and break through defenses and things like that. And when you break it down, like I'm sure, like match analysts, the league wise has been going through our matches with a fine tooth comb, and what they've been able to do, they've been able to melt it down to the fact like ball comes from defense, ball comes from midfield, out wide to the fullbacks, and inside forwards have tucked in. They make a run, or they wait for the ball to come into the box. They wait for the second ball and they tap it in. That is a quintessential Liverpool goal at the moment. The trouble with that is, every team is now setting up to do that. So the reason why we have this bizarre run of games against the bottom six where we can't seem to win, not even that now, can't even seem to draw at this point, is because the teams know how to sort our teams out. It's to force us into the same like playbook every single time. And when you are Burnley and you have very tall defenders and a front and a back line of 4 and a midfield of 2, you can just stack up your midfield and defense into lines, and knowing that you have like Fabinho and Matip, who are not fast centre backs, you can break on them and you're in on goal. And that's what happened with the Ashley Barnes penalty in the end. They're able to break through that line immediately and catch us with our pants down.
And also, you can defend really well if you know the opposition are just going to sling in crosses. I mean, like,
exactly.
If the tallest person Liverpool have going forward is fucking Firmino,
it's 5'10". Yeah,
exactly. So like,
I will say one thing for Emery, and I know we like, I hate him, but he got your number very early on, where he in the matches. I think we drew away in Anfield. Or no, I don't think that doesn't sound right. Maybe we lost by just a 1 or 2, but we were expecting to lose by like 8.
Yeah.
And that passed as a victory in the Emery years.
Yes, you set up
Um,
with a back five, I recall, and you low blocked us and basically played to our centre, which was our weak point, which I remember.
Yeah, and that was just like, oh yeah, let TAA and let Robertson fling in all of those crosses and think like whoever we had in defence at the time. I doubt it was Mustafi. But
I think actually no, he played Mustafi quite a bit. It was just Mustafi,
aerial balls,
and he was just like, Mustafi, you don't have to tackle anybody because all you're going to be doing is jumping up and getting in the way.
Yeah,
and he was like, "Ooh, I could do that."
Yeah,
and he, in all fairness, in that game, because I know the game he did, I think both Alexander Arnold and Robertson set like league records for the amount of crosses they slung in, and that's that's all he did was you just jumped up, and it's like if anything, he's a tall guy, he can jump, and he's got a fucking block head.
Yeah.
So
and he has no brains to like injure. So
exactly. Yeah.
The league is going to get sued.
But in that thinking, though,
just for blocking Liverpool was, they're going to swing in crosses. We will just meet the crosses. And that's the ideal plan for Sean Dyche's teams, who are just tall brick men.
Yeah.
And they did a good job. And like I watched that match. And as much as it was exciting to see Liverpool, like, you know, actually pass and create shots, Pope had a great game. And you need to be you need to have your shots really, really, really out of reach to beat Pope. He is a really good keeper. And I don't think you can have any kind of qualms about how many shots you actually took. It's not like if you watched an Arsenal match against that Burnley team, we had no shots. There was nothing. We didn't have any chances to complain that the keeper was being so good. We didn't even get to see how good Pope was in that game. So, I don't think you are feeling that it is.
No, I see your point in that sense, because it was very frustrating for me. And again, after watching all those games, us doing the exact same thing over and over again and expecting it to work. Like, I don't know, I can't tell if it's from a coaching aspect or it's from the players aspect. Like, if you listen to Klopp, it certainly is from the players aspect, because whichever way he's coaching him, they've obviously have a game plan up against the individual team. And maybe it's because like the season's so abridged, you've only got like a day or two to work on everything. That worked fine in the early season when you may be dropping points to a Brighton or whatever it is, and you can blame VAR on it. But when you had 9 days between Fulham and Southampton to focus on the Southampton game, and you still lose a 1-0, that isn't down from lack of preparation. That's too much preparation. You know, that's focus on the wrong things or whatever it is. And for me, when I look at the Liverpool team, maybe, I don't know, like when I look at the Liverpool team, I just think like you guys realize you can do more than just run onto crosses and like wait for second balls. You are all able to dribble the ball and run at defenders and run at midfielders and play square passes. There's just none of that imagination anymore. And the curious thing is, and literally the only one great bit of play I remember from this game was Wijnaldum going on like a dribble from like his box to the other box. A brilliant run, and nobody from the Burnley sides were able to take him down. That was the only dribble we did in that game. And that really annoyed me, because Salah, when the first season he came into the league, literally did nothing but like run past the centre defender, dribble, goal. That was his game. Mane, the same way. Firmino, not so much. But Oxlade, Shaqiri, these are all great people on the ball. Except this season, we just seem to be afraid of doing that. And I think it's because maybe it's an over-reliance on the fullbacks, and perhaps now because we keep forgetting Thiago is there as well. But the trouble is Thiago's playing number 6. When like really you'd want to take him out of there and more freer in the midfield, so we can play those straight passes much quicker.
Can't Thiago do this? See, I know you've listened to the same Second Captain's podcast that I did.
Yeah.
And Early made a good point there that Thiago's that kind of midfielder that has to dominate play. So everything has to go through him. So I know we're going to shift off the Burnley game onto the Man United game, but he made the point that and I went back and watched the extended highlights, so he's actually correct.
Yeah.
That every single good chance that Man United had came from when Thiago lost the ball.
Yes.
Because everything was just going through him. And so they're like, oh, well, if we can get this guy to turn over the ball, which admittedly is not an easy thing to do. He is such a fantastic player.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, well, every time he turns the ball over, like, we're through on goal because nobody can, because they're just waiting on him to do something. So when he fucks up,
yeah.
we're through.
Do you know the weird thing is? We already have a player that does all the time, and that's Henderson. Henderson's the captain, so good luck trying to get him to not dictate the play. He's literally pointing out to the players, move there before he even gets the ball. Like he is being the quarterback in that team. And now Thiago comes in, rightfully so, and is far more talented than Henderson is. But the difference is that Thiago doesn't quite have the authority yet to start pulling the strings. But I'd argue that like if you had a midfield of Henderson, Wijnaldum, Thiago, that works perfectly fine. I wouldn't say that you couldn't have one or the other. You can have both of them play. They just have to be separate. They have to be able to go, like, well, Thiago's going to work on this side of the field and Hendo will work on this side. You swap over, whatever the fuck it is. So that's one aspect of it. And further to that point, Henderson is no longer centre back, right? That is not working. Get him out of the midfield or get him into the midfield.
But Klopp doesn't rate Williams and doesn't rate Phillips. So who the fuck else is he meant to put there?
It doesn't matter. Who cares? Literally, who gives a fuck? Like Henderson is not a centre back. He's never going to be a centre back.
Klopp clearly thinks he's better there than Phillips or Williams.
And Klopp is wrong. And this is going to be my central point. Klopp is wrong about these things. I've been saying this all season. Whichever notions he has in his head are wrong for this season, and perhaps only for this season only. But in a season where you have a truncated season, you've got like back-to-back matches, two a week, whatever it is, and you're sticking to the front 11. Granted, because of injuries, we have been able to use like fringe players and rotate them. But give the players that are there a break. Don't have them playing in rubber matches against like Danish competition.
Yeah, I was about to say that. One of the things, I think we were going to get onto it when you laid into Klopp later on, but fuck it, we'll do it now.
Yeah.
Is for somebody who was routinely complaining about not getting the 5 subs, he doesn't really like to rotate his team very often.
He doesn't like subs full stop. He doesn't use them.
I was looking at that team going, like, okay then, Klopp, if you got 5 subs, what the fuck would you do with them? Because he hates his bench. He doesn't like any of them.
I found it so disrespectful that he gave Minamino 10 minutes against Burnley when we were already down. I could not get my fucking head around that. And he does this all the time, by the way. He literally does, like, he loves a late sub for 80 minutes. And Wenger did as well. A lot of managers do it. Can someone from an actual fucking scholarship of, like, substitution explain to me what the benefit of it is to have them on 10 minutes instead of half an hour? What fucking difference does it make?
Yeah, when you're losing, like, if you're, like, 3-0 up and you want to give the youth players a couple of minutes, so like, all right, then fine, then do that.
That's perfect. Not from a losing position when you need his goal and you're taking off one of your better, like, forwards. You were taking off Shaqiri, who, God bless him, was actually trying. He just had no one to pass to. He was running around the ball going like, oh, I saw the ball. Is it? Hello? Anybody there? Hello? No, just me? Okay, I'll just pass it back to Fabinho. Fuck yes. And that was our game. It was literally just like no one was making a run. No one made a pass. We just got up to a certain point and just gave up and gave it to Robertson and gave it to Trent. And that was it. Fucking, it's boring. You know? And it's boring watching the games like this because I knew from like watching that, right? Fabinho has the ball. He's going to pass it to Thiago. Thiago's going to see nothing essentially. He's going to pass it to Robertson. Robertson's going to get blocked out for a corner. The corner's going to come in and it's cleared. I knew that a minute before it started because it's so fucking predictable. If a gumshoe like me can tell that, then so can the coaches who've been watching this neurotically preparing for our games. So it's up to us to be a step ahead of them. Change formation, change your style, counterattack, press, do something different. Because that's your issue. Your issue is you only know one trick when you clearly know a lot more. Maybe try different things. Shockingly, I know, crazy notion. I know. Maybe change formation, change your personnel, change the way you play, change something. Stop like doing the same system, expecting it to work, and then getting angry when it doesn't.
Exactly. To go the best part of 70 games undefeated, repelling all comers. Until the fattest, baldest, lumberingest version ever of Ashley Barnes comes along.
That should tell you that the system no longer works. It needs to be changed.
Yeah, when the Ashley Barnes test. Can you get past this? Yeah, fuck it. Scrap it. I don't care.
Yes. I'd be right in saying that you're picking the FA as your COD then, Jonathan.
I actually have no quarrels with governing bodies this week. You'll be shocked to hear. You'll be absolutely shocked to hear. But before we do,
on pods then at this rate then, because you've then clearly put forward that you don't rate Klopp at the minute, that his decisions are perplexing and annoying. Because I wonder what that's like, Neil. Do you know?
No, to be fair, I'm on a
Hang on, wait till I open a window to let out all these hot takes. Holy shit!
It is. Do you know what? It is such a simple thing. Just try something else. And you know the weird thing is, we used to be like this. We used to be able to go like, oh, if that doesn't work, we'll try plan B and C, when like there was different coaching involved. I think there is this kind of like line of thinking now in the Liverpool camp. We have to do this. This is the way that works, and just stick to this position as best we can. Because I remember actually
here, and you know, there's no like, if it worked last year, why wouldn't it work this year? That is a legitimate answer. Yeah. And he might just be discovering, well, okay, like one team has figured this out. Okay, another team. Well, the United match, I'm going to take that out of the equation, because that's always a testy match. Like, you know, you can never call that. It's always going to be low scoring. I think, like, after the Burnley match, you can probably go like, yeah, I could probably change something here at that point. I think this is the point where he has to go, something has to change here.
I agree, yeah.
If after this match, who he's up against now? Sheffield, is it?
No, we have United in the Cup, and our next league game is Spurs.
Oh, Spurs.
Actually, our next 6 is actually really exciting, because I think it's 5 out of the top 7. So it's, I think, I'm just doing this off memory, so bear with me if I'm wrong. I think it's Spurs away, Leicester at home, West Ham away, Brighton at home, Man City.
Hang on. I'm getting them up. Hang on. Yeah. Sunday you've got Man U, and that's at Old Trafford. Thursday is at the Toilet Bowl for Spurs. Yes. The Sunday after that, which is 3 days, you're at the Porn Stadium with West Ham. Then you've got a home game with Brighton. Then you've got Man City. And then, I was about to say, then you've got Liverpool, but that's you. Then you've got Leicester after that. And then we're into the Champions League mid-February.
Yeah, Leipzig.
And you start off with disgustingly flavoured energy drink Leipzig.
But you know what the weird thing is? Like that, when I actually kind of look at those fixtures, I think...
And then you've Everton after that.
But you know what the weird thing is? When I look at those fixtures and go, oh yeah, we'll take them seriously. In a way, like I can get that the players will get themselves motivated for it. They just need to be a bit more creative and just think outside the box. That's what my main takeaway from those matches was the fact, like, oh, we're up against Newcastle, West Brom, Burnley, boring. Get me back in the Champions League, lads. Am I right? It's like, no. The reason why you won the league last season was because you took these games seriously. You have to get back onto that now. You can't just whip the crosses in and expect someone to just fall over and score an own goal. You know.
Sorry, that noise was from Chorley nearly equalising against Wolves.
Ooh. Come on, Chorley.
Chorley, the second half has actually all been Jordy.
Nice.
Ruddy has to make a great save, and he just finishes off by going absolutely tonto at the defenders in front of them. He goes fucking nuts. One of the Chorley players, fuck it, whoever number 20 something is, but like when I mean he was alone at the back post, I mean he was alone. He could have swung a string of cats around him and not hit another player. And only for fucking Ruddy somehow getting a right hand to that. That's actually a fucking brilliant save.
Yeah.
And then he just screams at the defenders going, who the fuck is marking this guy?
But he can't.
This is going to be this is an interesting second half.
Yes, it'll be fun. So yeah, before we are going to go talk about the FA WSL, but before I do that, I will briefly let you know how VAR Wars and the P45 crew is doing. First off, VAR Wars. Thankfully, not much to talk about. It's been a very mumbled up double game week and so forth, but I will say there's only 4 to talk about. So Burnley earn a point. This is a weird one. I don't know if you saw this. Robbie Brady got a booking for taking down Rashford, I think it was, basically on the edge of the box. And it was looked at VAR first off to see was it inside the penalty box or not, and obviously it wasn't. It was then looked at to see if it was last man back, which it wasn't, so it was given as a booking.
What do you say?
And then
Obviously, it wasn't a penalty. This was Manchester United you're talking about.
I know that's why the like that's 5 yards away. We just got to double check.
Yeah.
Double check. Yeah, I'm doing the elbow. I'm doing the no. I'll get it cold.
Yeah.
So they checked it again because they saw an infringement from Shaw beforehand, which was a foul, and it was like one of those kind of like grazing, like nearly nasty challenges. So they scaled it back all the way to that and rescinded the yellow card for Brady and gave a booking to Shaw. It was like, all right. I didn't realize we were being that neurotic about bookings now, but fair enough. Welcome to the new age. And +1 then to Arsenal. That was the second Aubameyang goal. That was VAR approved because of the crossing from Cedric, nearly going out of play. +1 for Sheffield United. Holy shit. They got a penalty after Fernandes handball. That was actually the penalty that made them win their first ever game of the season. Well, if you're Sheffield and you're relying on VAR, your mortal enemy from last season. That says a lot.
In all fairness, Sheffield, I reckon, would take anything that can fucking get at this point.
Yeah, another ghost goal would be nice, wouldn't it? The only one taking away this interval has been Chelsea. They had a -1 after the Pulis's penalty was reviewed by VAR and the tackle from Johnny Evans was outside the box. So not much has changed, lads. I'll be honest. More or less everyone is still losing. Liverpool still -5. Manchester City are still on 2 points and leading. Man United, beg your pardon, still leading VAR wars. Aston Villa and West Brom are still -4, and Wolves are -3. So everyone is losing in that regard. And speaking of losing, Cardiff City, in their eternal wisdom, after sacking Neil Harris, has brought on Mick McCarthy to replace him. Put your head on it, lads. Where's Jack Byrne when you need him? Oh yeah, in Cyprus.
Sorry, just a brief interruption there, right? We're 68 minutes into this game, right? Wolves are against fucking Chorley, and the second half has gone so badly that at 68 minutes, Nuno has thrown on Neves, Traore, and Pedro Neto.
All right then.
That shows you when I said how bad that second half was going. That's how bad he's going. He's put on arm grease and Pedro Neto.
Adama Traore against a semi-professional team is a fucking hate crime. That is not fair.
I actually do believe this might class as a war crime. I think he might be brought up in front of the Nuremberg trials.
It's not fair on Chorley. He's too fast. He'll just drive into the fucking turf and just get killed off by quicksand.
Okay, so just so you know how badly this has been going for the second half has been going for them. That's how fucking bad. It's a triple change. He made all of them at the same time.
Oh, what a segue, Neil! What a segue. Speaking of triple change,
triple changes.
Nice.
Joe Merkel had to make a triple change at the weekend because Arsenal women were playing so badly against Reading.
Yes, Burtbot, bring us up to speed with the WSL. We haven't spoken about it in quite a long time.
Or the rolling dumpster fire that is the WSL right now.
Yes, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah, it is quite trying to match the Premier League for headlines of shithousery. But it's not gaining attention. People are just getting more angry. So what's basically happened, as I have mentioned before, I think my COD before was Dubai Gate, was mentioned before, where players had taken it upon themselves to take a mental health break or a business trip or whatever excuse they came up with for going to Dubai.
In the middle of a pandemic.
In the middle of a pandemic. Our own Katie McCabe, who I still genuinely rate as a player, I think she is actually phenomenal, but she was one of the more brazen about it, posting it on Instagram that she was down at the beach, whereas the other players tried to keep it secret, only that they actually got papped by their own friends who aren't famous, but people found the friends, and then people found famous people in their Snapchats or whatnot. They came back from Dubai with a positive case. So there was 4 positive cases in the Manchester City team, and there was a positive case in the Arsenal team. and they the close contacts then throughout several different teams that were in the league, which meant that the first week back of having FA WSL after the winter break, because they do have a Christmas break, only had one match. They only had one match. It was Reading versus Chelsea, and Chelsea ran riot against Reading. Just Fran Kirby did Fran Kirby things, and it was unbelievable. And I really like her as a player. So frustrating when you have like teams that like you really don't like. This is like me saying Spurs. How like Son for Spurs is quite a good player. It hurts me to say this, but I cannot lie. He is a good player. He's a shit. He's a good player. So FA WSL then second round kicks off after the winter break, and we actually had multiple matches, which is great. Birmingham had requested the week before postponement due to them only being able to field 12 players.
That was hard. That's disgusting, by the way. I can't believe that didn't fly. Like,
it didn't get postponed, but because of Everton's squad having a COVID case and close contacts were connected to that, meant that the game could get postponed. Birmingham had no COVID cases, but just an injury crisis within the club, and they were not able to field the team. The FA said, well, you can field people from your academy. No, you can't, because in the lockdown, women's academies are not seen as elite, so they have not been allowed to train. So you can't call up a player who has been in the academy, has been training regularly. That's just an injury risk, and they didn't do it. So thankfully that match had been postponed, and they got back into the swing of things by drawing on their first match back. But other interesting things happened. So we had Manchester United top of both the Premier League and the FA WSL of a weekend, and of a weekend we saw that. So both teams dropped off the table at the end of that. And that was because Manchester United were playing against Chelsea in what was a humdinger of a match. I was watching the Arsenal-Reading match, which was on simultaneously on the big screen, and I had the Chelsea-Man United match because foolishly me thinking, oh, they're also title rivals. No. The Reading match I will get onto as my pod, but other matches that went on. So Chelsea Man United was just really, really good match. Like, some of the goals that were scored were just really good. Casey Stoney, I think she is a phenomenal manager. Like the stuff that she gets, the tactics, she had everything right on the day. It was just that little bit of extra magic bench player that Emma Hayes can just be like, who can I bring off the bench? Brings off the bench, world-class stars, and they kind of got the goal at the end.
Yeah.
Manchester City, on the other hand, so they would be the other people I would say are title rivals. They trashed Aston Villa 7-0.
Harsh.
I admittedly did not watch the match because I didn't want to. It just like, I don't want to watch a mauling. But kind of unfortunately for us and the rest of the league, Lauren Hemp is back from injury. She got injured at the start of the season and has kind of that has coincided with Manchester City's run of not great matches. And now she comes back and they score 7-0 against Villa. So yeah, it's kind of ominous. During the week, Manchester City played Chelsea in another humdinger of a match where Lauren Hemp was at I think she got a goal and an assist in that game, goal and assist in that game, but unfortunately Chelsea got 4 after extra time. 2 goals after extra time, after some absolutely fucking wonderful goals from Chelsea. And again, it pains me to say this, but they've just such a squad, and like the men's team, just bought quality after quality, and you bring quality off the bench to replace quality on the pitch, and it's frustrating.
Unlike the men's team, though, they're actually utilizing quality correctly.
Yes.
That's it, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Like, you can have Sam Kerr, Pernille Harder, and Frank Kirby as your front three with Beth England and Erin Cuthbert. Yeah. Like, these are all stellar, strikers, number 9s. So you've got this rotation.
That's a front five. That's a front five.
And different combinations of them work really well. And I said it before that in the women's game, you kind of get a bit more kind of variation where a player might be classed as a winger. They can play both wings. If they're a winger, they can play both wings.
More versatile.
Team, like if you put Trent Alexander-Arnold on the left, how would he work out with that? He probably would be shite because he's been just constantly trained to be a right winger. Right. Yeah. But you know what I mean. Like he
I do. Yeah. No. There's no targeted training. Is what you're kind of saying. It's like you're trained to be a right back. You know, you're trained to be a good footballer first, and wherever you slot in the team will work. You know, maybe different for elite clubs, but in a way, it actually kind of makes women's football more interesting that way because you could just get like, oh, Beth England's at left back. She is
the fullback.
What's she doing there?
You think that Jordan Henderson can't be a centre back? Well, you know, Katie McCabe
has been everything.
Striker Katie McCabe is playing our left back this season, and also played left centre back in the match at the weekend. Again, I will come back to that.
Yes.
Just quickly go to the league. Bristol City.
I want to cut in here actually because I saw this come up recently. Jill Scott going to Everton. That was a bit of a weird transfer, wasn't it? Leaving City.
Yes, I know. She hasn't been getting the game time. That she is in her later years. We say she is an Everton gal. She played with them in 2006. I think she signed with them. She played them for years now. I know she did play for Liverpool, but in the women's game, the rivalry between the two isn't as vicious.
No, the Liverpool Women's Club is kind of the Tranmere Women's Club. If that makes sense. It's kind of like half and half. That's why they play at Tranmere, if you know what I mean. We've had the rights to the team for years and never done anything with it. It's just like we'll babysit the Tranmere team if that just to help you out, you know. Basically.
But yeah, you haven't been getting the game time, and you've got the likes of Sam Lewis in your team, and I'm sorry, Jill, but you're not gonna out. They do the same kind of a role, except Sam Lewis is a bit younger and a bit quicker and a bit more terrifying, I suppose. She's the Tower of Power is her nickname, and that
sounds better in American accent. It's like Tower of Power. We don't do it justice here.
Power. Other interesting news which came out in the last few days was the Tourist here moving to Man United. Man United, while I say Casey Stoney is a brilliant manager, they kind of concede weird goals. They don't concede very often for a team that's newly promoted, shall we say. But when they do, it's kind of I don't understand how that even happened. It's kind of like someone forgets how to football for a second and then Mary Earps is stranded. Or Mary Earps kicks a ball to an opposite player going, oh shit, I used to play with Jenny, I don't play with Jenny. Oh, it wasn't the net.
Wrong bit color. Shit.
Don't be a bitch.
You're such a bitch. I had you not to score.
I would imagine bringing in someone from the champion, like Chelsea, bringing her in to your team is just going to strengthen it, and I think it's a really good buy from them.
It's amazing that they even got her off Chelsea. I mean, Hayes's plan at Chelsea is basically, I want 2 world-class players in every position because that's the only way you're going to get past Leon. Because you know,
that is the correct tactic. You have to.
And Chelsea are they're obliging her. But unfortunately, Leon aren't slowing down. They've signed Carrasco.
Yeah.
Who's pretty much odds on to be one of the world's best ever players. So holy shit, that girl's good. She dropped out of Stanford early to go do that shit.
Yeah.
And the women's US team are everything on her. They're this girl is so fucking good.
Yeah, and they're also on the hunt for Viv, if the tabloids are to be believed. Interesting as well. Everton, I think, made a great signing there with getting Jill Scott, and they've got a couple of their players coming back from injury. And here's a hot take: I think they're going to overtake Arsenal.
To be fair, I believe it. Yeah, I believe it. They are a very good team. They're really such a good, tidy team.
Yeah, like they play really good. You got Lucy Graham, who's kind of like, she kind of went off the boil a bit before Christmas, but she's kind of coming back into form. You got Govan coming back from injury. Izzy Christensen has kind of stepped up a gear. Yeah, like they're a team in form, and Arsenal are not.
Well, we are the underdogs. We are the
Yeah.
underdogs, according to Joe Montemurro. We are the underdogs.
I don't think any team that has the quality that we have ever be classed as an underdog. I
loved Claire Balding's reaction to that, to Montemurro's. Like, she just kind of raised a bit of an eyebrow, but it said everything. She was like, "Is he high?"
I think the kind of veil has kind of been lifted on John Montemurro. He has this kind of like air of maverick boss. I know what I'm doing. You just can't see it yet. Kind of a vibe to his kind of tactics. His whole thing of having a small squad, has come to bite him twice now, with league like injuries costing us the league. Small squad also came to bite us when one player got caught with COVID, and that actually ruled out 7 other players, because they all, such a small squad, they're so tight knit, ruled out 7 players because they've been in close contact. Leah Volti has come out with an interview this week as captain of the Swiss team. She did an interview about the national team, but was asked about her club performances, and she's been kind of on and off the pitch with injury. And she's kind of down in the interview, kind of saying like, oh, like I haven't been able to play with the team, but also when we do play, it's not the same as it was before. And like, it's obviously a translation of what she's saying in German, but it's quite damning to the team spirit. And I've said this when watching matches. I said it into the group chat, like, watching Arsenal is, you can see the players are not happy with each other. Like, they're constantly giving out to each other, and like, you can hear it because as well there's no fans at the matches, and I'm sure it's just kind of the same with the men's. You can hear them giving out, but it's not even like that was a bad pass. It was like, what are you doing? Don't do that. I told you not to do that. It's kind of really like
bickering.
Yeah, it's bickering, and it's bad to see, and you can see that they're not enjoying the football. And I think, and one of the things I saw, like, when the manager loses a team and they don't want to play, or they don't believe that the tactics that the manager are playing, you can see that. And you can see that with the Arsenal team, that they are like, well, I know how to do this, and I'm going to keep doing this. And then you've got the manager like blindly shouting. There was a clip with the Reading match where it was in the first half. Malin Gut had the ball, and she had turned, and her options in front of her was Kim Little, who was being marked by 3 players, Lisa Evans out on the wing, who was in a little bit of space but wasn't in a good position for the ball, Leah Volti, who is literally centimeters from her or back to the keeper. They were her options immediately as she could receive the ball. And she turned around, and she's only 19, 20 years old. She turns around, she goes, I'm not passing back, move. Then she pushed the ball at Viv. And it wasn't a great ball, but you could see she was doing it out of frustration. And then, people were saying, Lisa was looking, and she just went, well, I didn't hear her. And she just kind of shrugged her shoulders, like, I didn't hear her. And it's like Leah Volti, I remember, like, kind of was saying something to her, kind of like calm down, or something kind of and Leah Volti then goes in and does this completely ridiculous challenge like a couple of seconds later, and it's like, oh, they're just so angry. They're so like, they're obviously feeling the pressure because they're not performing, so they're like trying to overcompensate. And I feel like that's a case of the manager doesn't have the team under control, that it's a load of individuals trying to do their thing. And when you have that, and it's not like individuals doing their thing is fine for maybe Man United, but when you've got like a really well organized defense of Reading, who were beaten 4-0 by Chelsea the week before, they got the tactics wrong. They kind of put their hands up and said, like, look, we didn't think Kirby could run that fast anymore, and we took the high line, we paid the price, look, let's get over it. This week they're like, in the match week against Arsenal, they played the low block, and you said, like, having a plan B and a plan C, that is something that we can do. We can play from, okay, all right, plan A is get the ball to Viv. okay, Viv's been marked by 8 players. Let's not pass the ball to Viv. Let's give it to Katie or Lisa on the wing, and we can work it out the wings. That just wasn't happening at all. And in the second half, we did step it up. He made a triple change, which is my segue into this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
He brought me, Caitlin Ford, and he brought off Malangoot in midfield. Who was like, she's very defensive, I suppose. I was like, you're playing 2 defensive, Leah Volti and Malangoot against Reading. Why? Playing Katie McCabe at left centre back. Why? He pushed her out further out he brought Malangoot off for Jen Beattie. And he brought Wubben Moy and Patton off the 2 centre back pairings for Leah Williamson and Caitlin Ford. We completely wholesale changes. We changed up the play, but we still couldn't beat them because like the passing was just off. Like everyone was off by a fraction of a second, and it was just. I think he's lost the team. I think the tactics going against Reading was bizarre. And the changes he made at half time, while they were better, should have been the starting 11. But also, I would have made other changes as well. We lacked something in midfield. Midfield is where we could hurt Reading, and nothing was done about it. Like he was constantly going to the wings in the second half, and we weren't really getting joy from there until Caitlin Ford came on. He has this love of Jill Rood, who is infuriating as a player. And I can't quite pick a player in the Premier League who she reminds me of. But like, she's like, she doesn't have fully controlled she hasn't learned how to fully control her limbs yet. So like the ball, actually kind of Pepe. Kind of like Pepe.
I was thinking Sacco, actually. Sacco never seems to
made of nightmares.
Yeah.
Where like the ball would come to her and you're like, okay, she takes a touch and like, great touch, she got the ball under control. And then for some reason her switch, and it's not a touch, the ball will just squirm off her and she'll go lunging in for a mad tackle. Yes, okay, there we go.
Wouldn't be immediate to lose the ball and somehow ended up in like the different county. It's like she scored back-to-back hat-tricks at the start of the season, and Joe Montemurro was like, yes, my genius has shone true. Signing her was the best thing I've done for this club. It's like she's done nothing since. And he kept her on for the whole game, whereas she was losing possession more than Malangoot was in the first half. And when I saw her stay on, I was like, oh, she did all these great combinations with Caitlin Ford, and I was like, well, actually, that's quite good. But then she still wasn't making anything of it. And she forgot how to kick the ball when she was in the box at one point and stepped up the ball and tripped herself up. Again, not in control of her limbs. So Joe Montemurro, I feel his experiments with the squad have not worked. If you can't get the GOAT to score and get her into positions to score, she barely got to touch the ball, and it's not from want of trying. She was moving around the pitch. She was being marked by 3 different players at any one time, but we know she can do that. We know she's well capable of getting, but she just wasn't getting the support. And I just think it's time for him to go. I'm sick of him. I'm actually sick of him. The start of the season, like I said, I've been mentioning it when we were watching matches, that we're not playing great. We seem disjointed. We're giving out to each other. We're losing so many. I saw one of the podcasts I was listening to during the week said, out of the last 8 matches, we've got 2 points. Jesus.
Like, that's a run of form that would get you relegated. It's not good. It's not good. And against the other top 4 teams, the only team that we've bet in the last 2 seasons is Everton. So that is my thing, is that he can't play the tactics in a big match. We're not even beating the little teams last year we bet Bristol 11-1 and things were all rosy and it was great. We're not even beating Bristol by that much.
And it was very noticeable when you guys go up against Chelsea, because we've earmarked Chelsea as an incredibly organised side, like a team with a genuine game plan and an ability to get the best out of their players. And to be
Also,
fair, with
but
Casey
also with
Stoney,
depth. But also with depth, it's the
depth
depth
is key
part.
there as well. But even
You
then,
know?
like if it was an experiment, is it to say, well, let's say if Chelsea had the same small side as Arsenal did, you can still make the argument that like with the top 11 they have, it's still an organized side. You know, let's just say if it's just 11 versus 11, that team like wipes the floor with Arsenal. And I throw Man United in this category too, because you mentioned Casey Stoney and how much of a fucking smashing job she's doing with United. And that's still a very like early experiment. You know, like it's still only a couple of years actually in working. So to see a team immediately just like have the shit together immediately, know what they're doing, know what personnel they want, and to have got as well, crucially, to get exactly who they need and to make it work with like a player, let's face it, like someone who was playing like 3 or 4 seasons ago and immediately just switched into management and took to it just like that. That should show you like, okay, we get Arsenal, we're dominant in this kind of phase of women's football, but now other teams are taking it seriously too. And more than that, they actually have a genuine strategy and a plan to make this go forward. Whereas Arsenal are going with this, as you said, this kind of maverick kind of improvisation of Joe Montemurro and making it come across like managerial genius. Like, okay, it's like some managers can get away with that. Some managers will come across like a tactical genius, like 5 times out of 10. Whereas the other 5, you just went, oh, I got it wrong. I made the wrong call, whatever it was. Like it's grand like the first season when you're trying shit out and seeing who works. Not when you're like 5-6 years into the gig now. How long is he there? Like 7 years?
No, he's only there. This is his 4th year.
4th year, okay. Out of my head, he was there for much longer. But nevertheless, like okay, even better, yeah, for 4 years. Like if you're still acting the bollocks like that with 4 years and making these overcomplicated Guardiola-esque type like moves, as if to say like, oh yes, I know football better than everyone else. Oh no, I've lost to Leon on the counter attack. No, not my fucking Fabergé eggs. You know, fuck off. Like, you had a game plan, you fuck it up every single time. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you play Chelsea. Just play your team, and if they lose, they lose. Simple as. They're just better than you.
And also the ridiculousness of saying we're the underdogs when you've got a team that's staffed with European Championship winners and World Cup runners up.
You don't have a say.
How can you even say that sentence?
They didn't rate America. They just didn't rate America. That's all. That's why he's saying the underdogs. He's pointing to like City, Chelsea, and United, going like, oh, see, they signed Americans.
Chelsea didn't Americans.
No, yeah, but that's the thing. Like he's using that as a kind of like an excuse when it is.
I will say the first time that I really was like, because he's made some questionable decisions, like, you know, in the last few years, but in the Conti Cup final last season against Chelsea, I love Louise Quinn, and I rate her really highly as a defender. But when you leave her one-on-one as a tactic, leaving her one-on-one with Sam Kerr, that's not going to work out, because Louise Quinn is a per Mertesacker. And I've said this before. She's not speedy, but she's intelligent. She will win the ball. She will play the ball well. She will tackle. She'll know where to stand, where to be when the ball's coming in. If you're playing a high line against Chelsea with, I think it was Leah Williamson being sent up forward quite a lot as an attacking centre-back, leaving Quinn isolated with Sam Kerr is just not going to work. And that was the first time I was like, I don't understand why he did that. Now, Louise Quinn was coming in because Jen Beattie was injured. I still think that's a bad game plan to have with Jen Beattie. Like, that's not going to work.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked even if it had his first choice.
Yeah. And that ended up being Louise Quinn's game. And after that game, he told her, we're not renewing your contract at the end of the season. Like, okay, it wasn't directly after that game, but it was like, that was her last time putting on the jersey, and she was pissed at that, because, you know, and she's in a recent interview, like, you can read between the lines. That was her. She didn't have any intention of leaving Arsenal. She wanted to renew her contract, and Joe said no. And
is that a cause of the ruptions, do you think, in the Arsenal squad? Because you've alluded to this a little bit about how the camp seems to be a bit fractured. Because Louise Quinn was the captain, I know there's a few kind of people in the captaincy, but Louise Quinn was one of the more prominent leaders in the locker room in that sense. To see her kind of gone so acrimoniously, do you think that's what's been the catalyst for the team kind of breaking apart as it is now?
I I wouldn't say it's that per se, but I do think there's a lot of couples in the team, and
Okay.
I think that is quite. So if one person in a couple is not enjoying football or is having a bad run of things, that's going to affect. And I think that I don't know if there's any other clubs that have as many. Like there might be one or two. I know in Man City there's a couple, like at least one couple I know of, in squad. With Arsenal, there's 4 or 5 couples on the team. Like that's going to make, and if someone says something, or I'm not passing the ball to Beth Mead, and then all of a sudden Beth Mead's partner is like, well, you didn't pass to her, so I'm not passing to you. And not that that's a thing, you don't want to think that's a thing, but that's going to play into it.
No, I love the idea of like if Joe tomorrow interviewing for his next job, going, well, Joe, how do you feel? Towards the end of your Arsenal women's tenure, how do you think happened? Well, ultimately, the team was taken over by rampant lesbianism, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. Just no matter what I tried in the tactics sport, I just couldn't make it work.
No, but I do think there is a dynamic there that you need to keep a lot of people happy, which is fair enough. Like you've got a talented squad. And I think but I think maybe the fact that he wants that small squad so that he doesn't have as many of those headaches is a bad thing, because it shows he's strong enough to make his decisions based on how you're playing or how you connect. But yeah, no, I'm listening to the WSL commentary the last while. They've got Jane Ludlow on commentary, and when she's watching Arsenal, she cannot hide how much she loves Arsenal. Yeah. Like she's like, what are you doing? Like there was I was watching a match. It was before Christmas. Now I can't remember who we were playing. But there was a passage of play, and she literally goes, "I don't understand that. Why on earth would you put your players in that position? I feel so sorry for her." And whatever it was, I think Leah Wilkinson was kind of left one-on-one defending. She ended up making a good tackle and defending it, but she turned around, she was given out to someone who had left her in that position, and she's like, "Good on you, girl." And it was just like, yeah. And she's like, "That would never have happened in my day." That sort of thing. I'm like, yeah, we need you back. I'm kind of like, she's left the Wales role, and kind of like people are like, well, what did she do? She was 6 years in the Wales role. Wales didn't qualify for the Euros. And it's like, well, apart from, Jess Fishlock and one or two other FA WSL players, who's in that Welsh squad that would, like, a lot of them are championship players, a lot of them are even lower than that. There's not many standout players. So, like, I don't think she had too much to work with the Wales squad. So I don't think she can hold her head too low after not get qualifying. But she did have a great chance, and she didn't get it. But she stepped away at the same time that Phil Neville left. Woo!
Hey, great day for the parish.
And people are like, oh, she's going to take the GB role, but that's been given off to Reese. I can't pronounce her name. It's really bad. Reese.
Well, it's temporarily Risa, and then the Netherlands assistant, the current Netherlands coach, takes it after the Euros, or whatever they do it.
The England squad. So no, Jane Ludlow was in the running, I think, to take the GB role, but she said she wanted to go to club football. So I'm like, Joe out, Jane in, and that's my piece.
Very good, very good. So Neil.
Yep. We mentioned from one coach who likes to kind of funnel his players under the bus to another one, my cut of the week is Steve Bruce.
Ooh.
Steve Bruce. I don't know.
Steve Bruce, who after 18 months and £100 million, still claims that the team is made up of players that aren't his. I was like, how'd you work that out, Steve? Steve, bats clearly wasn't your fucking strong point in skill, was it? It's just Steve Bruce. Like it just doesn't look good for Newcastle. And one of the main reasons why I'm going with Bruce as opposed to, say, Lampard or any other sort of manager is that Bruce seems to have an awful lot of friends who are pundits, and none of them will go in on him. Like Alan Shearer wrote an article for the Athletic, and it was just so sycophantic. He just would not criticize, and I wouldn't even mind. But in all fairness to Shearer. He just state at the very beginning that Bruce is a friend of his and that he's not really going to pile in on him. But then goes on to just
the article.
Yeah, then just goes on to list like a load of problems with Newcastle, not mentioning that maybe Bruce is one of them. Because the main problem with Newcastle stems from the players wanting to stick to Rafa Benitez's old. He's also put the boot into Rafa as well in his recent press conference.
I was going to mention that when you were finished there, yeah.
The mighty Rafa, he called him. He actually said mighty Rafa. Fucking hell. Whatever.
Like living in your man's head.
Yeah, if he ever loses his house, he can live rent free, and Rafa's fucking.
What's Spanish for rent free?
So basically, the players want to play the three at the back that Rafa instilled, because Rafa, you just basically recognise they've got 6 centre backs. Mm-hmm. None of them are quick.
Yeah.
So playing only 2 of them is suicidal. Particularly when you consider the sheer lack of midfield cover that they've got, because they've got John Joe Shelvey in front of them who doesn't do anything. And as the games against Arsenal showed, he can't even be relied upon to do something with a ball that's not moving.
Yeah.
So you can't run, you can't pass, you can't even do anything dead ball. So he's literally an empty jersey. Longstaff, who's a fucking shadow of the player that he was before his ACL injury. He's just no faith in his knee. You can just clearly see him. He's no faith. Every time he starts to run, it's constantly like, oh fuck, 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 kind of that sort of thing. So why he's still on I understand he may be trying to build up his confidence in his knee, but it's very clear he's not getting on the pitch because they're getting mauled. And he just refuses to accept any kind of responsibility for it. The 2 games against Arsenal, which I'll pick, like the first game was in the cup. They went with 3 at the back and they held us 0-0 over 90 minutes, and we only won with a 109th minute goal from Smith Rowe, which he had to fit in off the far post because that was the only way we could fucking beat Darlow. Who's a fucking incredible keeper. Funnily enough, right, Darlow, I get shades of... Remember when Given signed for Newcastle?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, shit. He's a fantastic... I remember at one point he had a 4 in front of him, comprised of 4 players who all had a different primary language. Like 4 different languages in front of him. He's like... And people are like, why isn't their back line talking to each other? Here's a hint. They can't fucking understand. So with Darlow, I get massive shades of when Given was at Newcastle, because he's far too good for that team. Far too good. And it's not for him. They'd have been getting tonked.
Yeah.
So now the gloves were off after the loss against Arsenal. He's like, gloves are off. I'm fed up listening to my players. We were fucking shite, particularly after the loss to... They're the only team to lose to Sheffield. Gloves are off. Now they're going with his preferred back 4 system, which just isn't going to fucking work.
I'll actually call it a team because I remember like reading the team and going, holy shit, this is terrible. So the team was Darlow. It was the back, whatever the back 4 was. I want to hone in on the midfield, because the midfield was Shelvey, Longstaff, Almiron and Joelinton, right? So Almiron is on the left side of midfield, right? And Joelinton is on the right. And the front 2 is Wilson and Andy Carroll. Now, I don't mind Wilson and Carroll playing together because that does kind of work. If Carroll does a knockdown and Wilson's able to run on, beautiful. That makes sense.
Yeah, you're going with the big man, little man up front kind of thing.
Kind of. Like Wilson's a natural poacher, so whatever Carroll is able to pick out of the air, he's able to put it away. Makes complete sense. Works perfectly. What the fuck is that midfield? Joelinton, who's a striker as right midfield, and Almiron, who is a central attacking midfielder on the left, running in, and Shelvey and Longstaff holding. So in a sense, you've got like 6 defenders really, for all intents and purposes, and whatever Kraft and I think, and it wasn't Lewis playing, it was someone else. But it was Kraft on the right, and he was whipping balls in fairly well, but he's not a great crosser of the ball anyway. I can't remember. It could have been Yedlin. I can't recall. But never. Oh, it could have been Richie actually, and Richie just never got in the game anyway. So you had Lascelles and you had like Fernandez then as your centre backs, which is fine. They're just like Lascelles was obviously got COVID still, so he's kind of struggling. But just you're not going to get anywhere with that midfield. It reminds me of the time where like there was a game apparently when they had like so many injury problems that Steve Bruce was forced to play 5 wingers in the team, as if the gun was at his head and said, right, you and your entire team will be assassinated if you do not try to win this game. It was like, oh, I'll just have to play all my strikers so. Oh, aren't you so brave with that gun to my head? This will make for a great novel. And he just frantically writes the fucking team sheet angrily, insisting that they attack. I just look at it and going like, you legit can't say this is your game plan if you're going, oh, I'm going to put Joe Allenton on the right of midfield and see what he does. Oh, he did nothing. Oh, I'll just pretend to be shocked. Let me just be shocked at you all.
Steve Bruce is like one of those managers that half the team don't listen to them, and half the team are like, oh, this guy's a genius. Yeah, I'm going to do whatever the coach tells me. But the rest of them like copped onto him. And they're like,
yeah. But you know what the difference is, though? I don't think that's working this season. I think it's working for the players that are only new on the side, like, say, Maximin and Wilson, and perhaps Lewis to a certain extent if he wasn't injured, because they didn't know what it was like with Rafa, right? So when you go from someone like Rafa Benitez to Steve Bruce, it's like if the guy you had a great deal with in work, who was so talented and so forward thinking and knew everything and was your guide, your sensei all the way through, and he left for a much bigger job, and then it came in Terry, the fucking like dickhead who came in because he's the son of some other boss.
This is an exact replica of my time playing football, where my coach went on to coach like a inter-county team, and the coach that came up to replace him after being this, like, you know, everything was about like tactics and this is what you do, and this was run laps.
Yeah.
Run laps.
So when you see teams like that,
for run laps, we'll give you run laps, and like, we haven't even seen you bring out the footballs. Do you have the footballs? Would you run the laps? And we'll find out. And it's like, there's no tactics going on. We're just running. And most people can't even run at this stage because we're all fucked from all the running laps from last week.
Yeah. Well, the one thing to kind of bring it back to the argument Neil had about Steve Bruce and the easy job he gets from the pundits. I was like looking, I was watching the weekly sexual tension between Neville and Carragher, and just so happened that this week was about Steve Bruce, or at least Newcastle in specific. And Carragher was kind of making the point that, like, yes, the points difference is negligible between Benitez and Bruce this season, but that's a false alarm, because then he compared all the actual statistics that saying that Newcastle's going the wrong way, and that's all absolutely correct. And Neville's going, yeah, but they still got the points. It's like, and Carragher's going, that was the point of the argument, you asshole. You don't listen to it anymore. And it's that kind of thing where, like, the whole argument has been Bruce is not on the same level as Rafa Benitez just because he just happened to win this more games. The reason he's winning is because Callum Wilson is in the team. Rafa didn't have that. Rafa was working with far less fucking players. In fact, he got Rondon in to score goals, and Mike Ashley still didn't like him, so he sacked him off to China. Or brought back to West Brom, and then he got sacked off to China. You know, so the fact that every pundit is trying to make this false equivalence between Rafa and Steve Bruce when they're clearly not in the same league tactics-wise and class-wise is mind-boggling. But it's just a level of punditry nowadays. It's just the fact, like, well, he still got the same points, so, you know, it's working. Something's working. Newcastle has survived, probably. I don't know.
It's nuts. Like, I just don't understand it. Like, he must have like dirt on everybody. Well, it's fucking awful. Like, he plays Andy Carroll, but plays no width. He plays Joe Linton, a striker who can't score goals, but plays him on the left or the right wing. So he can't actually even create goals for the other non-scoring strikers. Well done. I was just like, I had no idea. Like, fucking. Also, what's Manquillo done? Like, Manquillo.
Very little. Very little.
No, I mean, like, what's he done to not get into this team? Because, like, he hasn't done badly on the pitch.
He provides very little. You know, in a world where like fullbacks are king and they are all.
I understand he's a limited. I understand he's a limited right back, but like when you look if you want to see this, check out the second Arsenal goal in the more recent one, and look at Kraft trying to track back. It's fucking criminal.
I don't get why Kraft is in the team. I legit think Kraft's in the team because Bruce doesn't like Yedlin. You know, Yedlin doesn't defend enough.
I just don't get what's
like. I can't pronounce your name. You're not starting.
Exactly. It must be like Mankilo is just too many fucking letters,
too many vowels.
That's it. Fuck that shit. Like, I don't know. Like, Steve Bruce has never really done anything to convince me that he's a football manager. He's just a guy with a good career as a player and has dined out on it ever fucking since.
He's also Alan Pardew.
Pardew, but at least Pardew has had some success. Like he's not ripped up trees or anything like that. But like
he's even a good player.
Yeah, exactly. But like
Pardew was a club hero for Palace.
Yeah,
you know, he was a one-club player. You know,
okay.
It's frightening. And the thing about it, like for him to go to a club, and I've said this before, like I have a kind of second soft spot for Newcastle for some weird reason.
Yeah,
and I just like him at that club. It's criminal. Like
Mike Ashley at that club.
It's Mike Ashley. Yes, it all stems from Mike Ashley. But even then, like Mike Ashley gave Steve Bruce 100 million quid. You know, and he fucked it.
Me Cork GAA.
Yeah. Newcastle, as sponsored by Cork GAA.
Newcastle twinned with Cove. Yeah.
But I don't see it. Like they're 15th right now. They've got 19 points, but like they're losing so many fucking games. Like
it's just because I think they managed to win enough games to be kind of the head above water. But if you look at the teams behind them, those teams are better than Newcastle. Like Fulham, I can quite essentially say they are a better team. They are playing the better football. They've got the better squad.
But they're not winning any games. Like Fulham have only 2 wins. Newcastle have 5. Now Newcastle just behind Newcastle, like they're level on points with Burnley. Yeah. Burnley have 5 wins as well. It's just that Burnley have a far worse goal difference. Oh no, they don't. Oh no, they have the same goal difference as well. Actually, it's just that Burnley have less goals for. Like they've only 10. But like there's nothing to say that Brighton can't win twice and get ahead of them.
That's exactly like literally all that Brighton needs is a goal rush, and they're ahead of Newcastle. That's literally the only thing they're waiting on. Neil Paupe, you're supposed to score goals. Nah, he's not listening.
You too.
Yeah. But like it's got to be like Steve Bruce. Like he's a bluffer. Like it's funny, and also he's just an outright liar as well. Like, like he's a pure fucking liar. Like he comes into the job. Right, because it's widely known that he boosted up his salary expectations with his "I've never been relegated" shtick.
Yes.
So he boosted up, like kind of like Allardyce, what Allardyce does. Boosted up. So he comes in, complains about league interference. He's like, "Oh, they shouldn't be interfering," because the FA were saying that players shouldn't hug or kiss each other when they celebrate goals because like there's a fucking global pandemic. And he's like, "Oh no, like that's the government shouldn't be interfering in the league. They shouldn't be doing that." I was like, hang on, a couple of months ago you were asking them to sack off the entire league because you'd realize that the team you inherited or the team you had are absolute gash and aren't going to do anything and might get relegated.
Yeah.
So it's like in the space of a few months, he's gone from the government need to cancel football altogether to they shouldn't be telling players how to celebrate.
Yeah.
But nobody pointed out on him. Nobody pointed out to him.
Yeah, that's it. I get it.
Like Mikel Arteta is still getting shit fired back at him that he said months ago. Like a couple of months back, there was a leak about a training ground bust up between Dani Ceballos and David Luiz. And it was mentioned to Arteta in that press conference, and he's like, "I'm going to get to the bottom of who this person leaking shit is," and that was months ago. And it was actually brought up in his most recent one. Somebody turned around and fired at him. I was like, "Oh, what about that? The training ground leaker? Have you said anything about? Have you got anything about that? I was like, that's months ago. Like, and he popped it off. He's like, oh yeah, I have some idea of it. He's like, clearly didn't want to.
Maybe it's because it's biased here. I know that Liverpool managers or Liverpool players tend to get like an easier time of it as well. Although there's not many of them compared to the United crowd. But Ole gets a very easy time of it as well for just being nice. He doesn't say anything, you know. He doesn't. I don't think there's any like genuinely tactical mastermind there. He's just a nice guy that people like, you know, the kind of way.
That kind of like the way he talks, I think he just comes across as a real sound. Like you're lulled into like going, yes, that's fine. You are winning matches. Of course, the league table's wrong. I'm sorry. Yeah, you keep your job.
That's it. Yeah. I think no, he does. He does come across like just like a granddad, like a nice uncle that takes you fishing. The problem is, a nice uncle that takes you fishing shouldn't be in charge of a Premier League club. Yeah. Give him a stamp collection. You know, let him collect butterflies or something, but not take in charge of a Premier League club. Get the actual experts in. You know what I mean?
Write novels of football-based murders. Yes.
Seriously, more, please. I loved it. I loved the first one. So I'll jump in here.
Like that's how it's just Bruce. And like his latest stunt was to like just turn around and go, well, I've done just as well as Rafa Benitez has. You know? And again, but again, when he says shit like that, nobody turns around and goes, yeah, but Rafa wasn't given 100 million fucking quid.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, can you imagine this Newcastle team if they, instead of hiring Steve Bruce, that they'd given the 100 million euros, the 100 million pounds to Rafa Benitez? Can you imagine this fucking Newcastle team?
In this season, by the way, where like the attrition football that Rafa plays would have been perfect.
This would have been brilliant. He'd have been mopping. They'd have definitely been top half. Definitely.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree with that. Like legit, like nailed on. So while we're on the topic, we're going to make this a full trifecta of managers here, lads, because my COD, not Jurgen Klopp, that was last week, Frank Lampard, right?
Oh, shit. Oh, Klopp. Genuinely thought you were Klopp.
Yeah, I went with Klopp last week. I genuinely thought your previous rant was your COD.
Oh, I got that out of my system now. I've got fresher prey now. And to be fair, like the Klopp thing was a bit alarmist. This is not. Lampard is completely inept at his job, right? And it's the point he's starting the show. And again, it's that kind of like little thing like, haha, the cows have finally come home to roost type situation. But I would like to see. I see a little.
Yeah. Shut up, you.
Yeah, see a little cheeky Naked Gun reference for everyone in the audience there. So I want to do a comparison here, lads, and it's a comparison that Frank Lampard has had to endure every day of his career. Let's compare Frank Lampard with Steven Gerrard, shall we? So, Frank Lampard is currently sitting 9th in the Premier League. Let me just get the stats up here because this is pretty damning.
I've actually broken the stream.
Jonathan, you're broken.
Like you literally paused. The whole thing cut out literally when he went Frank Lampard, and then it drained out. Like even the very internet itself just did not have the energy to cope with what you're about to say. It's like,
yeah,
just cut it.
Cut it
there. Cut it there. Right. Okay. Let's do our comparison here. Right. So Frank Lampard is managing currently Chelsea, who sit 8th. And have a goal difference of 6, right? Goal difference of 10. They've lost 6 games this season, right? They spent, I believe, upwards of £200 million this season, okay?
Quarter of a billion.
Quarter of a billion, thank you, Neil. 29 points this season, all right? Now, let's see what's happening in Scotland, shall we? Yeah, Scotland. Everyone likes Scotland, don't they?
No.
Well, we do.
Well, I do anyway. For the case of this one, Rangers currently managed by Steven Gerrard. They played 24 games this season. They've won 21, drawn 3. They've lost no games in the league this season. They conceded 7 goals this season. They have a goal difference of 53. They currently lead the league by 20 points. Right now. Steven Gerrard signed nobody this season, right? He kept with more or less, I think there's maybe a loaner signing here or there made permanent, or I think there's a loan for a youngster called Hagi. He's like Jorge Hagi's son. He's in the Rangers side. That's the only actual move they made over the summer. Frank Lampard has been given the keys to the kingdom. He's been given £250 million, and he's actually made the team worse. Whereas Steven Gerrard has decided to compete with Celtic this season. He decided to keep with the players that got him there in the first place. He's been somehow able to keep Morelos at Rangers, despite him being like, quote of like £30 million or whatever it is, and would have absolutely made Rangers a financial in the black for the first time in years. So kept Morelos because he knew if we do this, we're going to break that curse and we're going to get Rangers back top of the championship, which has been proven correct because they're now 20 points clear. But even that, Steven Gerrard has been able to get a team that's only conceded 7 goals this season in the league. Okay, granted, it's Scotland. The standard's not great. Just compare that with Celtic. It's chalk and cheese. And the difference is because one of those clubs is managed by someone really fucking capable. And it's Steven Gerrard, right? Again, this is not me now trying to overhype Steven Gerrard because I fucking hope to God he'll never be Liverpool manager because the same thing will just happen. That's happening to Lampard. But the difference is Gerrard stayed at Rangers, right? He had chances to go to teams like Derby County, Nottingham Forest. Even Arsenal was apparently interested in, which is bizarre. Frank Lampard left Derby at the first sign of danger. They failed to get promoted and literally just saw Chelsea was open and took it, right? He literally didn't think anything else but that. He thought he was ready. And ultimately now that he has had a second year into the club, he thinks he knows the club inside and out. He should also know that Chelsea are very, very mercenary when it comes to their managers. And that should be a cautionary tale to any player who thinks they know their club inside out. Because if that was the case, Frank Lampard would have never left Derby County. In fact, I don't think he would have even maybe considered the Chelsea job at any point in his career. He would have stayed away from the club top to bottom. And I think he's just realised that now. Now the fact that he is getting questioned on a weekly basis by journalists, and I wanted to bring this up because I showed you this clip earlier on of how he literally just attacked a journalist for doing an article that was critical of him and his team. And he blames the journalist for the club and the players.
Yeah, he made a comment. It's if there's anything that's going to shoot the morale of the players, it'll be the articles you're writing. And because I know that because the journalist he's talking to is Liam Twomey.
Yes.
I was sitting there thinking well, if there's anything that's going to shoot the morale of the players, Frank, it's you routinely throwing them under various buses.
Yeah.
Jose style. So
not only that, but actually getting rid of players as well. Because I was giving out about this all over the week that, and it was made official today, by the way, that they let go of Fikayo Tomori to AC Milan on loan. Yeah. I cannot understand that move for love nor money. I genuinely
with
cannot.
the buyout clause, which you absolutely know, with it a criminally low buyout clause.
Yeah,
you absolutely know that Milan are going to take that.
Yeah, because that's how they sign players now. They sign on loan so that they can basically pay half their wages and go, oh, we'll sign them next season. Juventus signing free transfers. That's their tactic. But Milan, Roma, even Inter sometimes, they'll get them on loan first, make them feel like absolute superstars, and then sign them permanently next season when they have the money. This is the tactic. And you've literally just, not only have you fallen into the trap, but you're hoping that somehow Tomori will not look at the fact he's getting first team football for a team that could win Serie A this year, or perhaps even the Europa League, and think, fuck Chelsea. I'm nothing to them. I'm king shit here at AC Milan. I'm playing with Zlatan. I'm playing with all this young generation of AC Milan players, and we can all grow up together and be a top team for years to come in Europe.
Yeah.
Why would I go back to Chelsea?
A quick aside. I think Arsenal are trying to do that with Odegaard.
Possibly, because he will be in the same age bracket as the lads you have in the team now. So that move
he's 22 now. He's 20. Sense. Yeah, he's 21 or 22.
22, yeah.
Now I know Madrid, they were insistent that we weren't allowed to put a buyout clause into his loan agreement, but there's
you can come in with an offer. If you came back next season and said 30 million. They take it because Zidane.
Not for Odegaard, I don't think so. Zidane seems to.
Zidane's a prick. Zidane's a complete prick. He would totally take that money. I don't like Zidane. I don't like the way he manages his teams. I think he's by far the most overrated manager in the world.
He's managing that Real team spectacularly ruthlessly. If you get it, he seems to just walk in and go
cutthroat.
Yeah, he just seems to walk in. I don't like you. Don't like you. Don't like you. Don't like
That's
you.
not good management to me. No, I don't agree with that system at all.
It's like he's just jealous of Ceballos' long hair, and he's like, "No, get out my club." And it's like, Zidane, please look, I've shaved my head. Let me come back.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, because Ceballos like is basically just been in every interview is just talking about how he wants to go and play well in Madrid.
Yeah.
Just going like, well, I know Madrid's like a fucking rolling dumpster fire now, but do you really want to go back there? We're not. I think Arteta's trying to say to him what Mourinho is saying to Bale. Is like, oh, do you want to play football at Spurs or go sit in the bench at Madrid?
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna.
He's sitting on the bench at Spurs.
I'd rather sit in the bench at Madrid. Yeah, but I think we're trying to say that with like Ceballos, which hasn't worked, and with Odegaard as well, that we're going to walk up with Odegaard and go, look, you're surrounded by early 20-year-old players. You've got Thomas Partey backing you up.
Mm-hmm. You got free reign over the midfield.
Yeah, like, you're alongside Emile Smith-Rowe, Saka to either side, Martinelli, Shaha, and then you've got the older players like Aubameyang to play alongside. Yeah. Here you have a future. Back there, Zidane is he's got 7 starts in 2 years under Zidane. Like,
disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful.
I think it's a bit of a charm offensive. It's the only reason. It's the only way I can justify the Odegaard loan. It's a charm offensive.
Yeah, I certainly go along with that. Yeah, but the real kind of
sorry to derail that.
No,
for that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of a running theme of these kind of like these like fantastic like players in their day suddenly thinking they become managers and they end up being like political piss pots, kind of way. There is a kind of a running theme.
Also, like I said this before, it's like, did the players not watch the teams that they're going to sign for first before going there? So like, and just to get back to like Frank Lampard, like, did any of the players of like Ziyech, Mount, well, not Mount, he didn't sign Mount, Werner, like, all right, then fine. All right, fine. Like Ziyech, because he's got a wand of a left foot, but like he can't do anything else. Like, surely he must have watched the Chelsea games and thinking, I'm gonna have to do something a lot more than just swing in crosses with my left foot. I'm gonna have to actually like run, dribble, beat players, do shit. Like Werner, okay, then fine. Like Chelsea didn't really have a striker, and they've been looking for a very quick, large guy to kind of do a Drogba. So I understand why he went, but then again, like, they aren't giving him anything, and they aren't playing to his strength either. I mean, fucking their last game, they were playing up against a team that had like a criminally high line, and just there was no balls into the channels whatsoever. The tactics were totally wrong, just garbage. And this team's failings is all purely Frank Lampard.
Yeah,
I like a normal manager, a proper manager, even somebody who's half decent with a team this fucking good. Like, Jesus Christ, the players they got. Like, you should be mopping up.
When you look at how like a Liverpool team has been like literally decimated from like 3 long-term injuries, Van Dijk, Gomez, and Jota, that team is like in disarray from just those 3 players. When you look at the fact that like Chelsea have this literal embarrassment of riches, the fact that like they could lose any 3 players and they still have more than enough to challenge for a league and are squandering in 8th place, that is not a failing of like squad planning. That's not a fail of anything. That's a failing of management. That's a failing of coaching. And you know what it is. You know what's the next part to replace, because this is what Chelsea does. When a part becomes effective, they just fuck it out and replace it with something better or something, or Avram Grant, as a case sometimes
But the thing is that, like, well, what's curious about like Lampard is that he's seems to have something. Like, he's the only Chelsea manager to survive not winning the league.
That's true. That's very true.
The only Chelsea manager to not win a league, not win the Premier League, and still keep his job the next season.
Would they put the transfer ban as the reason for that?
Maybe, yeah. But even then, there were managers available then. Like,
true that as well, yeah.
Like Chelsea aren't afraid to pay off their managers. Like, they've been paying, like, Roberto Di Matteo famously was getting like 120 grand a week off them for 5 years after he was sacked by them because of the terms of his contract. They had to pay his contract off. So I mean, like, in the time that he's taken the job, lots of really, really fucking good managers have become available. And they've not really attempted even to tap any of them up. You know? Like, why aren't they going hard in for Nagelsmann or Tuchel?
They've been saying this. Apparently that's their shortlist is those two managers. And like, I'm looking at
Get them in now, then. Like, fuck Frank Lampard. Like, get them in now at the midpoint and allow him to have this half of the season as a kind of write-off.
Maybe.
You know? Because the team's getting worse with Lampard. It's just getting worse.
Yeah. I feel like Lampard should get grinds from Emma Hayes on how to, and then like he'll go off and he'll like study how to be a better manager for a few weeks, and then he'll come back and he'll have it all sorted, and it'll actually just be her on the sideline. Okay, get him to pass the ball out to the wings.
Down the earpiece, like fucking Steve McLaren.
Emma, that has nothing to do with the match. No, but he is really good looking. And get them to cross the ball into him because he's quite good. Okay.
I like that. Sort of like Emma Hayes is going to be a remote control.
Wait a minute. Those are fake Lampard.
That's a fake Lampard. He's just got one of those fucking foam bodies just there. Yeah, in a Chelsea gilet.
The crazy thing is, like, that we were kind of joking at that, but that is legit like a good idea, because Emma Hayes would have had, if Emma Hayes was not a good manager, she would have had this exact same problem with Chelsea. How would she have been able to fit all of these like massive moving parts into this team? It's not going to work. You know what I mean? So yeah, I totally go along with that.
And the major player that has left this, transfer window is a defender, not one of the, as we mentioned before, 5 strikers that she has in rotation.
That's it.
Also there's Neve Charles in there. I forgot Neve Charles. There's 6.
Yeah, 6.
So like, it's just really weird. Like they could get Emma. I'm like, why not Emma Hayes? I mean, like, I think the Premier League is probably the only league now that's never had a female manager. I mean, like, even the NFL have a female manager for one of the men's teams. Washington, their new football manager into the next season is a black woman.
Yeah.
So
she would become into a perfect group of players to work because they're so young as well. So there's no nonsense of like anyone pulling rank, because that's what the Quaid's on the team anymore practically.
I would fucking love to see somebody try and pull rank on Emma Hayes. I would actually pay money.
Hewlett style.
She would literally whip out one of those extendable batons and just fucking beat it with Coleman.
On an aside, I know this is kind of turning into an Emma Faye's love fest, but like she obviously was very none of her players were involved with Dubai Gate, and she much took the high horse. Like, she was so high up on that horse that she was never one for wearing masks on the sideline. You can still hear her chewing gum on the sideline. Like kind of Big Sam, kind of like...
Oh, she's gone full Alex Ferguson.
Scamming, yeah.
But she like arrived up to her 2 post-Christmas matches with like mask on fully. There's elbow touches, no hugging players. I'm so much better than all y'all other managers who let your players go to Dubai.
all y'all motherfuckers.
Like, she was just, I genuinely, this isn't just me being like, I think she should take the team because she's a woman or whatever. I genuinely think she's an amazing coach, and I genuinely think she could actually, she has the stuff to manage men and manage in the cutthroat world of the Premier League. And I don't think it's going to happen. Like, I absolutely think there's absolutely no chance of it happening. But I would just...
It's a good what if, though, isn't it?
Into the ether so that maybe it can manifest it.
No, I think it's a good what if. Like, what if she does take control of this team? Because you can definitely think like they'll be certainly a lot more organized, and there will be certain players who fall on the sword. But like, it's because like it's a bloated squad as it is. So yeah, someone's going to have to go. But at least it won't be because Frank Lampard doesn't know what he's doing. At least you can say with Emma Hayes, she has some semblance of management skill. She's actually talented in the post. Frank Lampard got there because he's Frank Lampard. He didn't get there by merit. He got to playoffs with Derby County, and half the team were loanees. Right? That is not. That is an achievement in of itself. But then look at all the other players from his generation now becoming coaches. Stephen Gerrard is going to win the Scottish League at a canter, which means he can challenge the Europa League, which he did brilliantly in last season with an inferior squad. He has now kept that same squad for a full year, made them better, made them somehow more defensively cohesive, so much to the point that with a 40-year-old Alan McGregor in goal, they conceded 7. That is insane. That's insane. People should be talking about this. How is he making this team so defensively cohesive? Let's learn from a good manager here, or at least not even a good manager, but someone who's learning and is perfecting his craft when Lampard should have been doing the same thing, but he didn't. He chased the sun, and now he's burning up and falling into the fucking sea.
Yep.
So, call time.
Yeah.
What are we going to pick?
Oh, this is a very tough week.
I'm gonna go out on the limb first, and I'm going to back up my fellow gunner, and I'm gonna go with Joe out.
Wow, Neil, interesting.
Look, in all fairness, if you've got Vivian Miedema and you can't get her scoring goals, you're doing wrong. Like, you could dope that woman up to the eyeballs on ketamine, and she would still manage to shank it in at some point.
Yeah.
So, like,
fair.
If she's not scoring goals, the problem is not her. The problem is you. And obviously, that's a horrendous boiled down topic, but we've already discussed at length Arsenal's issues. Not just, Miedema is not racking up goals and 4 assists every single fucking game. But that's just the thing. Like, the team's so dysfunctional that literally the best goal scorer on the planet can't score goals. Like, what's going wrong there? The team's the same.
Yeah.
It's your tactics, pal.
Yeah.
You know.
How about yourself, Bert Bach? What's your pick?
Ooh, I did really enjoy your takedown of Frank Lampard.
So nice, to be honest. I really enjoyed that myself. I felt better,
I was gonna go for his Klopp rant until I realised that wasn't part of it.
Yeah. In fairness, no, I'm gonna vote Klopp as the cod of the week. I'm gonna vote Klopp.
Yeah. I'll switch to Klopp then as well. Yeah, fuck that.
No, you had your chance last week, lads. Fuck off. Fuck yous. No, do you know what? I'm actually my pick for COD, and I'm actually quite glad this is brought up, because for the longest time I thought this fella was the most overhyped, overrated manager that everyone had ever spoke about. So my COD is Joe Montemurro.
Yeah.
From every Arsenal women's game I've watched, in it's grand when you're up against like the likes of your Bristols, your Birminghams, and you can like swap them away with world class players. When he actively has to like face a Lyon or a Chelsea team, the guy doesn't actually know what he's doing. He thinks he's Pep Guardiola. He thinks he's got the cheat codes to women's football, or just football generally. I'm looking thinking like, mate, you're managing a squad of 18 players, and you've designed it so that you're managing such a small squad, and is then complaining when players get injured at a club called Arsenal, where literally you walk in on crutches half the time, and then complain about like not having the facilities, not having the squad, not having the numbers, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, I'm missing the amount of like Arsenal injury memes that we're not getting as many memes this season. I like the memes from last season.
Very much a medium down on the squad as well. They have not been posted. Like last lockdown, I was telling you about, my battery's gonna go. I'm gonna be cut off this call. I was telling you about like all the TikToks and all the fun things that were happening. None of that. The Arsenal Q&A for the members for the women has been postponed 3 times because players have not been able to do it. And like, I don't know if they're not able to do it, or they're just like, I don't want to do it.
It's not a happy camp.
So,
that's what it is. Yeah. Nevertheless, lads, before Burkbot like disappears into the ether herself, we are going to wrap up this podcast. We've been talking long enough, but we've enjoyed it. It's been a hell of a session. It's been emotional, getting all this stuff off our chest, and we'll do it again very, very soon. But yes, if you have lasted the distance, thank you very much for listening to the Liquid Football Podcast. It's been a pleasure talking to yourselves, Neil and Burkbot, as ever. And we'll do this again sometime when the landscape of football has changed yet again. Will Emmett Hayes be the Chelsea manager? Will Jurgen Klopp be sacked? Will Maurizio Pochettino still have the coronavirus? Who knows? Nobody knows. The coronavirus might even win the Premier League itself at this point. It's hard to tell. But nevertheless, thank you very much for listening to this show. Please, by all means, follow us on Spotify for more of the same. We do bi-weekly podcasts and we do a whole range of stuff on YouTube. So please subscribe to us on that as well. So, but for now, lads, thank you very much to listening to this podcast. I've been Jonathan. That's been Burkbot. That's been Neil. And that has been Liquid Football.